Hello, I'm Death's Arrow, and welcome to episode 24 of What I'm Thinking. In this episode, I will look at the Soviet T-54, a medium tank that has weathered the power creep storm and remains one of the best Tier 9 mediums in the game. From a historical perspective, the T-54 was a Soviet medium tank developed in 1944 and 45 as a replacement for the aging T-34. The first prototype was completed in February of 1945, tested and quickly commissioned for service. The tank had virtually the same armor and drivetrain as the prototype T-44, but with thicker armor and a larger turret ring, which was critical to being able to mount a 100mm gun on that chassis. The main armament was a 100mm D10 TK cannon with two 7.62mm machine guns. The tank weighed approximately 35.5 tons and had a top speed just shy of 43 km per hour. Prior to the beginning of production, it was decided to modernize the design, with a second prototype completed in July of 1945. The tank was equipped with a new turret armed with the 100mm LB-1 tank gun and a 7.62mm medium coaxial machine gun, along with thicker turret armor and a higher fuel capacity to maintain the tank's range due to the increased weight. This prototype required further modification and didn't enter service until April of 1946. Like most Soviet designs, the T-54 was modified and upgraded throughout its service life, eventually becoming the T-55 in the late 1950s. The T-55 was produced until 1983, with over 100,000 units built between the T-54 and T-55. The tank is still in service today. In World of Tanks, the T-54 is the ultimate blend of mobility, armor, and firepower. It has the speed to take key positions early on in a battle, as well as the ability to flex to other parts of the map as necessitated by battle conditions. Flanking and brawling are highly viable options as well. The T-54's front armor is well sloped and rather effective against lower tiered tanks. The front of the turret is quite thick and will bounce almost anything thrown at it. Smart angling at the right time can help induce more bounces. A confusing thing about the T-54 is that it has two different 100mm top guns, the D-54 and the D-10 T2S. The D-54 offers 18mm additional penetration with AP rounds, while the D-10 T2S has a higher rate of fire, is more accurate, and has faster aim time. Both guns have the same penetration with premium heat rounds. Either option is viable, but the D-10 T2S is the preferred gun due to its better accuracy and aim time. The downside, though, is that it forces you to grind another 59,300 XP to get to the T-62A. AP rounds from either gun are effective, and heat rounds are pretty much overpowered. I highly recommend carrying 8 to 12 heat rounds for difficult targets or situations where you absolutely need to pen a target. It's a bit challenging to pin down a proper playstyle for the T-54. The tank is extremely flexible and a variety of tactics will work. Area of denial, exploiting, and flanking are all viable tactical options in the right situation. The key for me is to stay flexible, as the tank's mobility will allow you to plug holes anywhere on the map as needed. I tend to play pretty aggressively to begin with, and it pays off in this tank. The only bad choices are pushing hard into enemy lines alone or trying to slug it out against higher tiered heavies. The tank does lack gun depression with only 5 degrees available, so hull down tactics are not particularly viable. For equipment on this tank, I went with a slightly unconventional route with vents to improve all crew skills, a vertical stabilizer for better aim time, and optics for better view range. Most players would go with a rammer rather than optics, as the increased damage output can be very useful. Personally, I found that having extra view range to be more valuable for spotting and scouting. The T-54 is actually a pretty good scout in the right situations, with a good view range of 390 meters with the upgraded turret as well as good camo. Spotting also becomes more critical in late game situations where you have less friendlies to spot targets for you. For crew skills, I recommend repair first on this tank, as it reduces track repair times to just a few seconds. The T-54 thrives on mobility, and being tracked in the open will result in major damage. Other useful skills would be Sixth Sense, Camo, Clutch Braking, Smooth Ride, Snapshot, Safe Stowage, and Brothers in Arms. The first replay that we'll be looking at is a solo battle on Cliffs from May 21st, 2013. Please note that this is an 8.5 patch battle. As noted at the top of the loading screen, this is a standard battle. Reviewing tank composition for this battle reveals the following. This is a Tier 9 battle with 7 Tier 9s per side. My team has 3 Tier 8s while the enemy team has 4. My team has 2 Tier 7s while the enemy team has 1. My team has a Tier 4 scout while the enemy team has a Tier 5. Both teams have 2 arty pieces. My team has a Tier 6 and a Tier 5 while the enemy team has 2 Tier 6s. I recognize one player in this match, and it's Barbecue Sub. I've seen him in game a number of times. He's a good player. While I don't know the G platoon on the enemy team, I know the clan well enough to know that they're quality players that I'll need to keep an eye on. As the match loads in, I know that the best use of my tank is to control the middle of the map. Lack of gun depression precludes going to the hill at F5, F6, so instead I'll use my speed to get to F3, F4. The enemy team only has 2 tanks that can get to this area in a similar amount of time, so resistance should be minor, at least initially. As the match gets underway, I immediately start heading east and towards the hill. Under the assumption that the enemy T-54 will also be heading to the middle, I switched to heat rounds in order to gain an early advantage. This is a bit premature and potentially short-sighted, as it's unlikely that their T-54 will commit to an assault at first contact. There's also a good chance I'll be wasting premium ammunition if I forget to switch back. Continue climbing the hill. Following the road right now, but eventually I'm going to cut over. A quick left turn around the hill and immediately start heading west. There will be a slight amount of time that I'm exposed to enemy fire from the north. Turn my turret in that direction. There's the enemy T-54. I snap a shot and miss. I get spotted. Enemy Lorraine is also headed in that direction. The enemy Awful Panzer is attempting to climb the hill. Line them up. Take a shot and I hit him. If you note, I'm still using premium rounds. I haven't even noticed that I'm using them at this point. I should have switched already. Shouldn't even switch to premium to begin with, to be honest. Got a Centurion on the back side of the hill. Got an Arty moving up. And a WZ-111 1-4. Now spotting towards the hill. Get spotted by something. Luckily the Awful Panther. Try to line him up, but he's on the back side of the hill and in cover. Bounce a shot, not sure from what. Playing the waiting game right now, see what the enemy does. We've got, there's the enemy T-54. He's still on the opposite side of the hill. Our other T-54 is spotting him. Still trying to line up the Awful Panther. Gets spotted again. Enemy Arty is climbing the hill. They'll line him up. Take a shot, hit him in the track. Finally notice I'm using premium rounds, so I switch back to AP. Trying to line up the M12 again. That time I get a hit for damage and he disappears. Trying to get a blind fire here. Take a shot. Don't know if I hit or not. He's not dead, so it's likely I missed. Enemy Centurion out the corner. He's actually not looking at me yet. I wasn't spotted apparently. Get a hit on the Centurion. Back into cover again. Our friendly T-54 has also joined me on this corner. This has left our backside exposed. I'm a little concerned. You can see tree fall. There's the enemy T-54. Feeling a little squeezed right here. Take a hit. Shoot at the Lorraine, then come around. Lorraine is pushing in on me. He misses his shot. He's backing out, likely reloading. Get a hit on him. I can tell that the Lorraine is reloading since he's trying to back off. Rather than give him the opportunity to escape, I make the calculated risk to charge and take him out. This will allow me to circle around and get behind the enemy T-54. Come around the corner. Snap a shot at him, get a hit. Make the call to ram here. No point in waiting for my reload. I bump him for the kill. I'm going to continue to come around. I'm going to flank out the T-54 and Centurion. Their T-54 is engaging our T-54. We also have a Yag Tiger 8.8 centimeter down at G2, pushing in on our base. Come around the corner. T-54 is in the open. I get a hit. I am using premium rounds again. It bounces return shot. That was definitely a heat round based on the way the shell exploded on my hull. And we knocked down the enemy T-54. With the enemy almost routed, I go into full-on attack mode. A lot of players would go to cap at this point, but my tank is still healthy and I can pick up more experience by going after the remaining enemies rather than capping the base. There he is. Line him up. Missed my shot. He actually wasn't even paying attention to me. Circle around him. Friendly gets a hit on him. And I knock him down. I'm going to attempt to spot the enemy Arty. There he is. Can't really get a shot here. There's too many rocks in the way. Get a line on him. And I get a hit. And our IS-6 knocks him down. Just the two enemy TDs remaining. One of them is in that G platoon, so I need to be careful of him, even though it is a T-95, which I can easily outmaneuver. I'm going to drop off the hill here, take a shortcut, switch back to premium rounds. T-95 is going to be a hard nut to crack with AP for me. Our T-71 has begun capping the base. I'm going to stay on the attack here. There's the enemy T-95. Snap a shot off and miss. I'm going to maneuver around, get around on his flanks. He's trying to track me, but he definitely isn't fast enough. Get a hit on his side, get behind him. Basically have his rear all day long. There's no way he can turn on me. Get another hit. Have him pinned in place now. Get another hit. We've knocked down their Jagdtiger, so it's just the T-95. And I knock him down to win the match. Based on information from the Wot Replay Analyzer, which by the way shows this battle to be on Ensk, and that's a glitch, I destroyed 3 tanks, damaged 4 more, hit 16 of 20 shots for 3,804 points of damage, and earned 1,684 experience before the double. Overall, based on the map and my tank, I made the decision at the start to head to a key location in the middle of the map. I knew that I'd be able to get to that location based on my tank speed as well as the enemy team's composition. I used this location to harass the enemies that climb the hill, which has become a favorite tactic from the northern spawn since the introduction of physics. As the battle progressed, I saw an opening to take down the enemy Lorraine as he reloaded, and took a calculated risk to push on him, which would also give me the opportunity to flank around behind the enemy T-54. This paid off as I was able to dispatch the Lorraine, flank the T-54, and help take down a key member of the enemy team. Once the hill was cleared, I went into full-on attack mode. There was little sense to capping in this situation as we had an overwhelming numbers advantage and my tank was in good health. The second replay they'll be looking at is a platoon battle on Pearl River from April 29th, 2013. I am platoon with Jovial Madness in his AMX 50 Foch. Please note that this is an 8.5 patch battle. As noted at the top of the loading screen, this is a standard battle. Reviewing tank composition for this battle reveals the following. This is a Tier 9 battle with 2 Tier 9s and 7 Tier 8s on each team. My team has 2 Tier 7s while the enemy team only has 1. My team has 1 Tier 6 while the enemy team has 2. Both teams have 3 arty pieces with 2 Tier 6s and a Tier 5. It should be noted that the enemy team has a platoon of 2 Tier 8s and a Tier 6. This is a poor decision on their part as the Tier 8s are dragging the Tier 6 into higher matches. I recognize one player in this match, and that's EJVH3 on the enemy team. I'm familiar with him from the Wot forums. As the match loads in, Jovial and I have decided to go south. The north doesn't make much sense for us as neither of our tanks are made for those tight quarters and the enemy team has more armor. We're better served staying away from that area, preserving our tanks and coming back if the enemy pushes through. As the match gets underway, I immediately start heading to the south. I'm going to take the long road all the way to the east. Jovial's heading more centrally at this point, although it looks like he's going to turn back and continue heading south with me. He's coming across now. I want to take this far route in order to stay out of sight for as long as possible. It'll give me some sniping opportunities on the enemy. Our AMX 1390 is way up ahead, and our AMX 1375's got the middle guarded. Based on early tank distribution, we have 2 IS-3s and a Super Pershing in the north. Enemy Patton spotted in the north. Our 1375 spots the enemy VK-2801 and an FCM 50. I'm going to try to get some snipes on the 2801. Jump into this gap here between the buildings. Missed my first shot. Our 1375 gets knocked down, but before the 2801 can run away and knock him down, trying to get spots on the FCM 50. And I didn't reload in time before he disappeared. Continue pressing south. The enemy has at least 4 tanks in the north. We're continuing to press on the south. Trying to figure out why our light tanks have fallen back into that corner there. Spotted enemy KV-4. Try to line them up. I get a hit, but no damage. Likely a critical hit. The enemy is pushing the north in force and a breakthrough is imminent. I've already made the call to start falling back to base. Rather than waiting for the enemy to start capping, I want to engage them in the open as they push for cap. Jovial will stay here and hold his flank. I am going to take the long route back. I know I have time. The enemy tanks aren't that fast. This Artie here is kind of far forward, to be honest. Although it's likely that he won't be spotted anytime soon. Continuing to push back to base. The enemy has broken through in the north as expected. I'm taking the longer route back to base so I can get into an overlook position to snipe at the attackers. Really don't have a lot for defense. It's going to be myself and a Ferdinand plus Artie. A Lorraine 155-50 is in the open too, which is not good. You can see him fleeing right now. Actually, the Ferdinand is in a good defensive spot in the trees. I take up a spot behind some trees, hit the IS and knock him down. Maneuvering to a slightly more concealed position. An enemy super Pershing, lining them up. Get a hit. Lining him up again. Another hit for damage before he disappears. Enemy E-75. He's been pretty damaged by his encounter in the north. I get spotted. I decide I'm going to move up, go behind the buildings, and get on the side of this hill over here. Limited mobility in this area, but it'll give me some advantageous shots. Get hung up on the terrain a little bit. The Ferdinand knocks down the Super Pershing. Got an E-75 and an IS-3. The IS-3 hasn't been spotted for a while. E-75 disappears. Line up the IS-3. I've switched to premium rounds and knocked down the IS-3. I'm going to stick with premium rounds here against this E-75. Going to move in and attempt to circle him. He's the last enemy, so this is a viable option. Take a hit. Missed that shot there on the run. Continue to circle. He gets hit in the back. Slow down and knock him down. With the base successfully defended, I make the call to head north and flank around. While the enemy is on the opposite side of the map, I have enough speed to get around and take advantage of the hole left from their attack. It's unlikely that any tanks remain in this area other than potentially Artie, which will occasionally go to A7. See all the wrecks up in front of me, where the main encounter was. Jovial is hanging on in the south. Right now, we're losing by one tank. We do have the advantage that we have both our tier 9s still alive. Continuing to roll through the valley in the north. This is a long flanking maneuver, but it pays off when you have mobility. Come onto the bridge, trying to line up the 3001H. Could only see the top of his turret and I miss. Rather than sitting there and waiting, I'm going to keep pushing up. They're pressing on Jovial hard. He does knock down their FCM-50T. Jovial gets knocked down by Artie. Did a good job in the south though, held the enemy off for quite a long time. I'm pushing up into the hills. Currently have a 1-tank lead. A number of the enemies have still been unspotted though, primarily Artie. Entirely Artie actually. The 3001H is pushing in my direction. I knock him down. I've switched back to AP rounds. There isn't a target remaining that is any threat to bounce rounds. Su-14 on my left. Looks like he's waiting for me. And our Type 59 knocks him down. Gonna keep heading up into the hills. Just the Artie remaining. Not much of a threat, you would think. Enemy Artie was spotted at D1 and E1. Type 59 is attempting to close the gap there, so the enemy can't escape. As I come upon the enemy Artie positions, they're nowhere to be found. Continuing to push. It appears that Artie has fled. Enemy Artie is taken off towards our base, and a match that looked to be well in hand is starting to look a little dicey. While capping probably makes more sense in retrospect, I press on to chase down Artie. Our GW Panther, and he knocks him down. Enemy Artie is continuing to press on our base. I'm going to chase them down, try to finish them off. I'm not sure what our Type 59 is doing. He's just kind of circling around back there at F12. This would have been a good time for him to cap. There's the enemy M41. I snap a shot off on the run and I miss. Continuing to move tangentially to avoid getting shot. 59 gets a hit on him and I knock him down. The enemy Lorraine 155-50 is pushed in our Hummel. With just him remaining, I'm going to chase him down. Again, it would be nice if our 59 went to cap. At least as some insurance. The 155-50 knocks down the Hummel. He's having himself a hell of a match. Continuing to chase down this last Artie. I've circled all the way around the map now. There's the enemy 155-50. I keep moving, circling around him. I get hit, he tracks me, and ammo racked. I missed my shot. I repaired my ammo rack with a repair kit. I have a chance to hit this Artie while he can't shoot back. I get a hit. I immediately begin to circle him, try not to allow him to hit me. He misses his shot. I derp my return shot. Now I circle in next to him, stop, line up my shot, knock him down for the win. Based on information from the Wot replay analyzer, I destroyed 7 tanks for a top gun, damaged 1 more, hit 11 of 17 shots for 1,835 points of damage, and earned 1,431 experience before the double. Overall, the T-54's mobility was on full display in this match. While I decided to go south at the start, the north was quickly overwhelmed and I was forced to go back to base, leaving Jovial to defend the south. I made this decision early in order to get to an overlooked position prior to the enemy making it to our cap. This paid off as I was able to snipe from a concealed location prior to closing and finishing off the final attacker. I then made the call to go north and flank around the enemy forces. The southern flank eventually fell and the enemy Artie made a break for our base. The match became a bit dicey at this point as I made the call to chase down Artie. The final encounter with the enemy Lorraine 155-50 was a bit ugly as I missed a few shots at point blank range, but I was able to finish him off and win the match. Thank you for watching this episode of What I'm Thinking. Stay tuned for another episode soon. In the next episode, I will take a look at the T-69, the tank that sets the tone for the rest of the American autoloader line.
Ha ha ha.